welcome to Prague Will Find a Way, podcast about all types of progressive music. I'm Jonathan Block.
And I'm Jay Valade. Today we're going to look into Pink Floyd. Now, Pink Floyd, I have the Oh By the Way box set, which is all their studio albums. And we're going to kind of do overview stuff.
Goes through Division Bell, doesn't have, Endless River?
Right.
Yes.
Which is up behind us.
It
doesn't have it doesn't have Pulse or
it's okay.
Like that. But we were just offline in discussing what we're going to discuss. We were just saying, Floyd is like their own thing, right? And so there are prog moments and there are not prog moments, but they are definitely under the umbrella.
Oh, sure.
For a good portion of their output.
Well, because Prague, everybody get 10 people. Everybody have a different definition of Prague. For some people, it's lots of notes and complex time signatures.
Capes and hobbits.
Right, or the lyrical content. For other people, it's more the approach or the compositional aspect.
And the approach to music.
Yes. And the approach to music.
The pushing the boundaries.
Right. But the other thing I was saying is that Prague became Prague because of Pink Floyd and the things they were doing. So it's like a chicken and the egg, to me, argument. So it's not that Floyd sounds very proggy a lot. They certainly have their moments. But Prague, a lot of the things that they did paved the way and were there at the birth of Prague.
Right.
So
absolutely. Yeah. And from a leading people to different avenues, people always refer to Floyd. Stephen Wilson is a huge champion of Pink Floyd.
Right.
Everything they did. So. Yeah.
I will say, for me personally, it's a nice time to live because the era that I always liked that was ignored for years, which was '69 to the release of Dark Side, and I can prove that by the hundreds of live shows I have from that era on a hard drive somewhere. And then Nick Mason comes out, and that's all he does. It really started with the early years box set. It was like, oh wow, all that stuff is out. And for me, that period, and now seeing that all these people now talk about a lot of that stuff.
But it is kind of funny because although it is having a resurgence, the conventional wisdom is that Pink Floyd's best albums are Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, and Animals.
Which in a sense,
it's like that's the three. So where we had our Yes starts, Yes album, Fragile and Close to the Edge are people's that is in the public eye that represents Yes the most, right? And I think that in the public eye, it's those three. The Wall is it's sort of part of that too. I think I could, if you're doing four, you would do that as well.
Yeah, and I would actually distill it down to one, right? Because think about it. By its nature, so much music is subjective, right? As many people like it, dislike it, and can be as dispassionate about it as they can be passionate about it. But there are certain... You strip away the detractors and the people that aren't going to be into it. A critical mass of people would say Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, sure.
It approaches it almost goes beyond subjective. It approaches objective music in the same way, not to the degree, but if you ask people and you tell people to keep your own personal crap out of it, and to be honest, for Yes, you're going to pick Close to the Edge as the pinnacle, right? No, seriously. Right?
I think so.
There's not a lot of bands you can do that, so to me that is like the level of music is beyond I like it, I dislike it.
Yeah, but I think that there's an accessibility to Dark Side that you don't get with Close to the Edge. You might get that more with Fragile or something.
Right.
Like that.
I was just using it as an example. I was saying it's not to the certainly not culturally and what you talked about is the stuff a lot of people talk about, and even they talk about the album, and it's the lyrical content. They brought it down to everyday people and everyday issues that people have. So it makes it more universal. It's a universal experience when you listen to it lyrically that everybody understands. It's funny because it's such a high level, right? So to get that many people understanding around, with our culture and all that stuff, that, I feel like I'm getting older, I feel this, or the rat race, whatever it might be of the difference. You can't pull them up and say those are big concepts that everybody can relate to.
Right. And I think that we all find we're saying that there would, to me, and it's just kind of funny because it's the way that it's listed on this box set, and I take the top half.
Yeah.
It was after Obscured by Clouds that I think they hit their cultural, to me.
Yes.
That's the cultural moment that they became what they are.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, my favorite album, we'll go through the albums, but I'll just say it. My favorite album by far is Atom Heart Mother. But I do not by any stretch of the imagination believe, I'm gonna,
die on the cross for
right. I'm not gonna,
It is the best. No one should.
I'm not, exactly. That's
how dare you say Dark Side is better?
Exactly. I know, but for me, that's the album that I pull to, and everybody has. They're in the same way that I do not like The Wall at all, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, my favorite is Wish You Were Here, obviously, since I bought the immersion box. But
I would agree. I mean, but when we get to the later stuff, I think Dark Side is a perfect album, if such a thing can exist. But I do like Wish You Were Here more.
I just like the songs better.
I agree.
It's just a different. I mean,
to me, Shine On, Crazy Diamond is their pinnacle. So I wish it was all one side. But anyways, we're going all over the map. Let's get a little.
That's right. Well,
let's get a little discipline.
That's what we.
That's
do.
how we roll. That's all right. That's what our 120 plus subscribers.
Yes, that's from us. So I got the this box set.
One of a number of box sets that have come out. I had that. Was it the Shine On one that with the black plastic?
Oh, I remember 1992. The big box.
Yeah, black plastic jewel cases, opaque, of course, with the stick
Oh right,
stickered
I remember
on.
that. Yeah.
I still have the early singles that came with that, which was great, and the book was good. But beyond that, anyways.
So this box set is basically everything from their first album through the Division Bell.
The real albums, like No Pulse,
no.
Is there anybody?
A collection
out there?
of great dance songs.
Right, or is there anybody out there live album? But you get Amagama because that was more a release and it had studio stuff. No relics or works or anything. No. Okay. Anyways.
So.
All right.
Piper at the Gates of Dawn, the very first one.
Or as it was known, so I have to bring this up because we talked about this. So in honor of the 50th anniversary of Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd, or they don't own the music anymore. I can't say Pink Floyd. The record company that owns them, Sony, they did a program where they got rid of all the album covers digitally. So if you went to Apple Music, it was black with white lettering, and it just described the picture. So this was, 4 young men as seen through a kaleidoscope. So of course, this is the Syd Barrett.
Right, and I think might be blasphemy, but we're going to take a higher level look at this. We're not going to delve into every song, but these two go together for me. They're basically two sides of a coin, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, they follow one or the other, and that's the way they release.
And it's the same lineup, and sort of, right? The same sensibility.
Well, this is totally Syd Barrett. Syd Barrett writing most of the songs. Yeah. Obviously, there's moments. There's no David Gilmour on this. So then Syd gets a little wonky, and they get David Gilmour in.
Yeah.
In 60, I believe the beginning of 68. I think 67 had already been completed. And so they're a 5-man band for a number of weeks, and they do play some shows like that. And then Syd is just kind of getting a little more. The idea was, hey, maybe Syd can do a Brian Wilson and be the songwriter. Because don't forget, so they're very popular. They're already way popular before the album comes out. And the underground London scene, Middle Earth, UFO, all those places everybody who talks about from that late 60s era in England. And then this comes out. And by the time this comes out, Syd's already, I think, having issues. Anyways, one day they just decide they're not going to pick Sid Barrett up for the gig, and that was that. And then it becomes, then they move in here. Now they had already jug band, blue, is it Jug Band Blues?
Yeah.
That's a Sid Barrett tune, and he's on there. People say he's on Remember the Day, Remember a Day, Remember a Day, the Rick Wright song, amazing song. And by the way, if you've never checked it out, it was very soon after Rick passed, and they had already been booked. David Gilmour band, or maybe they just brought him on to honor Dave. And Rick, and they played Remember a Day. It was a Jules Holland show, so it's amazing, one-off. Anyways, so it's like a little hybrid album where there's definitely influences of, and then they had like 10 minutes left. Historically, the story is always they had 10 minutes left on here, so they did a Saucer Full of Secrets. The record label was like, what? But that was... So, but from a prog perspective, that's important. That song, even though it's not my favorite way they did kind of space music, but we're talking space. This is 60. This is the birth of this kind of stuff. So,
but these feel very psychedelic to me.
And they are psychedelic. They are psychedelic. Yeah, they are. They're definitely a new, from our vantage point now.
Yeah.
Not as many people I think are Sid. It's totally a Sid era, but that you had that transition. And of course, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun is another classic Floyd.
Absolutely.
Atmospheric. I guess that's it, right? I mean, the funny thing is like this Floyd, this didn't just like birth a lot of the prog stuff. All the electronic, Tangerine Dream and all that stuff came from this.
Yeah.
And actually from the next album.
So, I just find some of this funny listening to it because it is this dichotomy of these spacey things, and then these kind of psychedelic, trippy songs.
Interesting. True. And it's funny you should
Which
say
I think
that
continues all the way up to Dark Side of the Moon.
Well, we could just let this pass and just say, well, what you were saying is true, but don't forget, they came out together as a nice pair, a compilation in 73, and actually... and
maybe that's why I think of them.
Well, and one of those it could have been a cheap repackage, but it wasn't. It had a brand new Hypnosis cover with all the little. It was an amazing cover, and then the other interesting bit about A Nice Pair is so Piper at the Gates of Dawn on that album. So it's not the studio Astronomy Domine, it's the live one from Amagama, and it was like whoa. So that was cool. I remember getting that and being that I may have even bought that the same day I bought Adam Hart Mother, which was at a Caldor. So all right, so now we get into
$2.99.
$2.90. Well, I think it was more than that, but it wasn't.
Because it was a double album.
Yeah, well, also wasn't 73. It would have been like 78 or 79. But regardless, so then we move into the soundtrack to the film more.
Yes.
I could actually talk about this album for a very long time because this really is one of my favorite Floyd albums. It's so Floyd. It's
what is
not
the difference?
The first
Any
Floyd.
Difference between your Japanese version and
no, and there's no inserts. It's not worth opening. Let me put it to you that way. So it's not worth opening. So yeah, I have. One of the few times I can show physical product. I actually have some physical product. So I do have the Japanese version from I think it was the late '90s, maybe or early 2000s, if more.
Okay.
And on this one, so for me,
why does this hit the notes for you?
I love Main Theme. Cymbeline is a classic early Floyd tune, obviously. So Floyd, again, for a lot of bands of that era, live sounded nothing like any of this. Right? I mean, live was, so Cymbeline's, a 10 to 14 minute tune with a footstep in the middle, foreshadowing Dark Side of the Moon stuff. Excellent song. For me, just as a listener and a musician, it's the tune and the one that, Quicksilver, which again, this is 68. It's an electronic kind of soundscapey kind of, so there was nothing coming from rock musicians at that time. Yeah. That to me is like that. When I listen to that, I'm like, okay, sounds like like that. I can hear where all those German electronic bands almost started from that one piece. Yeah. And they're only using organ, but it just has that Germany electronic feel. So as a kind of electronic musician too, that one of the reasons I like this album is because that piece, it's like little bits and pieces of what Floyd really was in totality live, I guess, because as I kind of had mentioned, I have a lot of live shows from the really 69 to 72 period, because it's like the English version of the Grateful Dead. I mean, the songs are going from 10, 15, 20 minutes on and on, but they're interesting. They're going through different, it's not just like a lot of bands where it was just, boogie, it's boogie jam, and it's not that at all.
Not at all.
And you get some of that on Amagama, but even on that, originally, again, I think a lot of people know this was originally just going to be a live album or 3 sides. So Interstellar Overdrive, I think, is the other track. There's a couple of other tracks that have shown up on an acetate from the shows. There's actually, I have the shows that this was taken from. They're out there. I will say, because we were talking about this before, if you have any interest in like live stuff, live Pink Floyd, there's a lot of stuff out there, sites where they've taken the shows and made them sound as good as they can, and they have nice artwork and everything. There's a lot of people that take this stuff seriously. And but not just for Pink Floyd, but this era that I'm talking about is very well represented. I mean, who doesn't want to hear a live version of Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast from Adam Hart Mother, right? So what do you think of this album? When did you get to this one later, or you just never really?
Most of the stuff I got too late. I apologize. I am not as deep into the Floyd as
that's the reason why I'm talking. I feel like this is my John and Vangelis.
That is.
No, but I know once we get to metal, everybody's got their own opinions. But yeah, I mean, it's even the studio side. You're like, wait, couldn't you have taken just another 6 months and come up with like great stuff instead of just good stuff?
Well, we were listening to this in the car yesterday.
Really?
As a build up to this, I'm like, I gotta familiarize myself with some of this, because a lot of it is in one ear out the other of the earlier stuff. And my wife turns to me and she goes, I really like Pink Floyd, but sometimes there's just a build up and it just goes nowhere. And it's kind of true in a sense. Yeah. Some of the stuff, it's like they let the tape run, and then they just faded it out when they felt like they got long enough.
or that's interesting. That's an interesting viewpoint, because I would look at it as very similar to that, but that the entire piece is a build-up, right?
Right, and like, where does it go? And
you think of like on since we're talking about like Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, which just starts with the cymbals out of nowhere, and then it goes through this big build-up, and it has a build, and then it just kind of gently goes off the side and ends the same way.
Yeah.
Whereas something like A Saucer Full of Secrets has a lot of, starts off and then builds to the cacophony and then comes out with the majestic.
I don't think she meant it for every song.
Oh no,
but it was just we were, and I think particularly when
I think it's a very interesting, and I agree. I agree, because a lot of it is about the atmosphere, right? It wasn't. They're not playing a lot of notes ever.
Right.
I mean, I think the most notes they play is like the lick and echoes, that longer lick, which they stopped doing live. Anyways, okay, now we get into it, right?
Now we get into John's favorite album.
My favorite album. Why is this my favorite album?
Why is it? It's bizarre. The title track is just. It's a weird moment of Floyd with the choirs and
I just love it.
It's all over the place.
I just love the piece. So I mean, I guess if you ever want to say the most proggy moment is Adam Hart Mother,
right?
And then the fact that they actually played it live they did numerous shows around the world. Not like they traveled with an orchestra and a choir, and they would get one locally and they would do it. And I do have probably most of the versions of it, and I love the non-orchestra versions are great too. That's probably one of the reasons why I love the album so much. It's really the song. It's the piece, Adam Hart Mother. That one song. Side one. And there's so many great live versions of just the 4 of them doing it, and it's it's amazing. It's just a great piece. For me, it just like encompasses a lot of what I always loved about Floyd. The second side, I mean, Fat Old Son is good, but that's another one where, that became, in the era that I like, a 10 to 15 minute live extravaganza that was amazing. And Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast is interesting. The music bits are really good, particularly the last one. It just sounds, how they sounded in that era. It just sounds so Floyd, and Nick Mason.
Oh, it's totally Floyd.
I just love it. It's just the whole thing. It's just a great album.
But a lot of the stuff at this time, up until, like I said, up until we get to Dark Side and Metal, but it's kind of they're these extemporaneous kind of jammy, like you said, space soundscapes, whatever, but with not for Petronics, but more developed band kind of situations like that. Yeah. So it is that kind of lack of song to me that sometimes gets me wanting to listen to the other stuff more.
Right, and
I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, for me too, I'm a musician, so I come to some of this stuff from that angle. Like one of the reasons why I like this era so much is they truly were a band. It was the four of them, and you can hear that in the music. It wasn't what happened later. And as a musician,
but it's also not overproduced. It feels like it's first take on all this.
But that's, I'm the kind of musician that likes to get together with people and jam. You know, it's just whatever happens. So it kind of resonates with me. But that also mirrors, like, as the emergence of Roger Waters as more driving force. Yeah. Not on Dark Side and not on Wish You Were Here, but after that, even though I love Animals, and we'll get to all that, it is such a band. Like, I can't imagine any four of them. Nick Mason, they all just had a very, very unique sound and approach, and that's one of the reasons why I like it.
What I also like about some of this early stuff is the Rick Wright stuff, because he is much more prevalent in it as a player versus soundscapey later.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He's more textural as time goes on, and he's more upfront playing the Hammond or the piano or whatever.
The Farfisa and the organ, and because that's what he had at the time. So he did. You can hear that kind of. He does the atmospheric stuff with the delays and stuff.
Oh, sure, he does.
But there's no synths. There's none of that. So
and it's a bit more. It's a bit more earthy, sort of, than the later stuff where it feels like he becomes a little more of a, I don't know, Richard Barbieri and Porcupine Tree.
Exactly. Well, and again, the Japan, like you could not have had Japan or and none of those bands without Pink Floyd, right? I mean, that's right.
So anyway, this is just these are thoughts as we're talking.
No, instead of we figure, we figure a lot of people know enough about Floyd that we don't have to sit here and go through every album and the track listings, and just go to Wikipedia or whatever if you want. I do want to say, before we get into metal, because I think this is important, is that, so they're constantly touring. Yeah. Constantly touring.
And they're putting out albums every 6 months? Or how often is it?
Well, maybe once a year. A couple come out in the same year, beginning and the end. However, Echoes starts showing up in the fall of 1970.
Okay. Showing up in
the live shows.
The live shows.
Yeah, and it wasn't called Echoes. Roger Waters would always call it something different, like they called it Return of the Sons of Nothing was a big name, and Looking Through the Knothole in Granny's Wooden Leg. That was another one that they used a lot, and that made it over to the Boots and stuff. It was funny, but so you get. I love that late period 70 live show, because you get all the Adam Hart Mother stuff and the long songs, and then all of a sudden you get Echoes too. It's like, you get everything. Yeah. And then then in the spring of that, the album comes out. One of these days shows up live as well. So. Yeah. So it's a good time to listen to Floyd, but this is almost like this album. I remember when it came out. I remember seeing the cover in a store and I didn't buy it or anything like that, but I remember seeing that and being like, wow, it was one of those things that you stopped and looked at.
Yeah. I really like this album. This is of the pre-Dark Side. This is my favorite album. So
yeah,
because I think it's one of these days. Fearless and Echoes are. I'm not telling anybody anything.
Right, they don't already know. It's true.
So they follow that up with Obscured by Clouds and
soundtrack. By the way, so this is they get hired to do the soundtrack for this.
Okay.
This is Pompeii time already. They're already working on Dark Side of the Moon, so that's why you get some songs that have a dark side-ish dark side. So just to bring people up to speed, so we get through metal. They do a fall they do a fall 71 tour. They take some time off when in those days musicians did not take time off because over the Christmas break, Roger Waters is writing Money and writing a bunch of songs, and they start putting together in January what's going to be Dark Side of the Moon.
And this is a stopgap, sort of in between.
Sort of. So it's called Eclipse at the time. It only goes up to Brain Damage. There's no Brain Damage. There's no Eclipse.
Okay.
The two instrumentals, Gig and Any Color You Like, are completely different. There's no synths or anything. There's no On the Run. But I think it's useful to say that this thing was written. Almost 3/4 of Dark Side of the Moon seems like it was written in less than a month because they're touring at the end of January and they're playing it. They started. The first show, they don't get through Money. It breaks down and they have to play Adam Heart Mother. So, can you imagine? But anyway, so I'm saying all this because they're not to this point yet. They've already written a whole bunch of Dark Side, and they're out there playing it under the name Eclipse. And then this thing comes out, and they got to write a whole bunch of other songs as well that they end up playing live. They do play some of this stuff live in '73.
Not my favorite though. As a lead up,
dude.
So
I can't read this because it looks very small. So the first two tracks, Obscured by Clouds and When You're In, that is like the most classic Pink Floyd you could ever imagine. The instrumentals.
I know, but
it's amazing. They played that live. They played that stuff live, man. Childhood's End. Childhood's End. Starts like Time. Sounds like Time with the clicking.
I know. That's what I mean.
It's a precursor to Dark Side.
It's a precursor, and I don't think it's as good, and I like this better.
All right. That's okay. Well, let's pause here because I think this might be a good time. This is like a natural break. But let me finish the Up to Dark Side story because then we'll just hit the release it. Well, because we're 72-ish, 71 into 72. So I don't remember. Like I said, I remember seeing metal in the store. I do not remember Obscured by Clouds at all. Certainly, nothing was played on the radio.
Yeah,
I do not remember anything from that.
And maybe I don't know.
Some good Rick Wright songs on there too.
Yeah,
Stay.
It's just kind of funny that it comes out right before this, and metal was right before. It feels like Obscured by Clouds should be after Adam Heart Mother.
Right.
Just as sonically as I'm listening to it, it feels like it was a step back instead of a step forward from metal for me. Right.
We also have to mention, the first time Roger Waters talks about his father and the war in, I think it's Free 4, the song. But in hindsight, it was like, there's another, right? I mean, when you started getting Floyd and there's not a lot of albums, all of a sudden you got to start working back.
Yeah.
And then, even working back, like it would be Dark Side to Metal. No one really, maybe it just wasn't around in the U.S. a lot. I mean, it had to be released here. I know it was a different shaped cover.
Right. It's got the little.
Yeah, it's got the curves.
Curves on the side.
Right.
And who knows? Maybe I don't know back then. Maybe it was because it was a soundtrack.
Could have been.
Maybe it was just an import, and maybe Harvest or whoever they were over here, AMI didn't pick it up as an American release.
Right.
I have no idea. Maybe it was a limited release.
Anyways, this is a good time to pause because we'll call it the early years and the rest, right? Some people go the early years, the middle years, and the later years. It's pre-Dark Side and post-Dark Side. So
that's how we're doing it.
That's how we're rolling. So
Frog will find a way
if you want it to.